I'm going to continue my commentary on this book right here. Now, we here in the United States have a constitution that every citizen has to abide by. It's our set of rules to keep us safe and to keep us well. Well, in the Old Testament days, the Israelites also had a constitution. It was set up by God. It's called the Torah. Okay? Now, what was the deal with the purity codes? Well, let me explain that to you. All right? Those were designed to keep you safe. Nobody wanted to have the bubonic plague, and certainly nobody wanted to have leprosy or any of those type of diseases. Well, God designed a system that would keep them from leprosy and bubonic plague and so on and so forth. As long as they followed those rules, those things wouldn't happen to them. It's that simple. Okay? Now, to give you a better context of what I'm talking about, would you let the town drunk, let's say you have a small town, you have a drunk that he's just drunk all the time, would you let him climb into an 18-wheel tractor trailer and try to drive it? Of course not. That's common sense. Well, for most people it's common sense. I know a few that say, oh, go ahead. Most people are smart enough to say, hey, man, don't do that. All right? Now, when race car driving was originally invented, when they originally had the original race cars, they were not designed for people that had both their legs cut off to drive them. Okay? Those race cars weren't designed for that. Now, in today's terms, a few little gadgets and gizmos and a little bit of electronics, and shoot, you could have a quadriplegic driving a race car. Just about anybody could drive a race car with a few little gizmos and gadgets. But back then, it just wasn't feasible. So, would you hire a double-leg amputee to drive your race car back then? Probably not. See what I mean? For another example, let's say you had these old manual typewriters. This was back 50, 60, maybe 70 years ago. Okay? Would you hire somebody that didn't have any arms or hands of any kind to go and type on your typewriter? Of course not. Now today, that's no problem. Shoot, a couple of gizmos, a couple of gadgets, anybody can type. But back then, it was a big problem. Unless you were really skilled with your toes, you really couldn't type. See what I mean? So, those who were missing their arms usually didn't get hired as a typist. Or a secretary, for that matter. It just didn't work that way. And the same thing is true with the Old Testament. Because of things like the bubonic plague, there were certain people that couldn't do certain things. And that's because they were sick, and they didn't want the sickness to spread and kill everybody. See what I mean? Now, the interesting thing is, if politicians today, I know that the punishments in the Torah are a little excessive and probably couldn't be applicable to today's terms, and probably shouldn't be, because we're a smarter society. However, a lot of the problems that we're having today are found in that Torah. And if we were to apply modern day solutions to those problems, our society would be a completely different society. Let's just face it. We have teenagers today that are just popping babies right and left, thinking there are no consequences to that. We can't let that continue. And there are other problems too. I won't go into a major list, but a lot of those problems were found in that Old Testament Torah. Why were they found there? Because God saw the future. He knew these problems would arise. And so therefore, when he dictated the Torah to these people, he cited every single problem that could ever crop up and what to do about it. God can see the future, and the proof is in the Torah. See what I mean? The Torah works because God can see into the future. He knew what problems would arise, and He told them what to do about them. Now, no, nobody has to kill anybody to satisfy the rules of the Torah. Not anymore. But there are other effective means. I mean, you can put people in jail. You certainly can financially rob them of every dime they have. You could put them out on the streets. That'd teach them. So when somebody gets hungry enough, they'll follow the rules. That's the way it works. But that's why they had purity codes in the Bible in the first place. To keep these kind of problems from creeping up and destroying our society. So the Torah is not some sort of a torture method. It's the Israelite Constitution, which, by the way, would be just as effective here in the United States as it was for the Israelites. Think about that. Go home, read your Torah tonight, and then compare it to the news items of the day. And you'll see that the solutions to those news items is contained in that Torah. No, you don't have to, like I said, nobody has to die over it. That's not the way to solve things. But you don't have to do it that way. If you don't work, you don't eat. How about that one? That's a quick solution. Nothing motivates people to work than starvation or eviction. Either one. You don't want to starve, you don't want to be evicted, you go to work. That's how that works. No, you don't have to be a slave, but you do have to go to work. Everybody works. Even I work. The Bible holds the solutions to a lot of our problems that we're facing here in America today. And all you have to do is just read it and see for yourself. God anticipated this 2,000 years ago. Well, why aren't we trusting Him to help us solve these problems? I don't know. But anyway, that's how the Torah works. Take some time tonight. Read it. You'll see. I will tell you more in a future video, so stay tuned.